Hey guys, today's lesson is on angle pair relationships. This is a lesson that you'll see next year in Math 2. It's part of the geometry section, but I wanted to expose you to it so it's not the first time you see it next year. Okay, so angle pair relationships are formed whenever you have a transversal line that cuts a parallel line. So essentially that's the definition of a transversal line. I have a diagram here for you. This is a transversal line. So a transversal line is a line that cuts a set of parallel lines. So these lines are parallel. We talked about parallel lines this year. They're two lines that never meet. They have the same slope. Again, a line that crosses them is a transversal, and it doesn't have to look like this. It could look differently. It could be like your parallel lines like this and your transversal goes like that. Your parallel lines could also be vertical and your transversal goes like that. So it doesn't have to look exactly like this picture. I just wanted to show you that. So let's go ahead and go through some vocabulary. So you're going to have a ton of angle relationships. You don't have to memorize them, but this is actually a good topic to study for next year. So over the summer, I know with everything going on, you're probably not going to be able to go out. And I know the last thing you want to do is study your geometry, but it's a good idea to stay familiar with these terms. So one set of angles are corresponding angles. So here I have two parallel lines and a transversal, and these angles here are corresponding angles. Okay, so corresponding angles are angles that are in the exact same spot. So like for example, this angle also has a corresponding angle. It's this one here. This green one has a corresponding angle. It's going to be the one down here at the bottom. And there's also going to be one on the right hand side. Okay, so all of those are corresponding angles. And I want you to know that corresponding angles are congruent. And congruent is just a fancy word that we're going to use right now to say that they're equal to each other. Okay, they have the same measure. So we also have same side interior angles. Here's an example of angles that are same side interior angles. Now, same side interior angles are not congruent. They're actually supplementary. And what that means, supplementary, how many M's does supplementary have? I think one. Yes, one. So supplementary angles means they add to 180. So their sum is 180. So here this angle and this angle are supplementary. They're not equal to each other. Okay. And then there are more sets of supplementary angles. You could also have this angle with this angle. Those are also same side interior angles. And the reason that they're same side interior angles is because they're on the same side of the transversal. So remember, your transversal is right here. So these two angles are on the same side. Okay, same over here. These two angles are on the same side. And there's only two sets of same side interior angles. Okay, the next one is alternate interior angles. So that means they're on alternate sides of your transversal. So that means you have one on one side, one on the other, and then you have another set. You have one here, one here. So alternate interior angles are congruent. So again, that just means that they're equal to each other. They have the same measure. Let's keep going. Alternate exterior angles. Again, they're on alternate sides, so on opposite sides of your transversal. One's on one side, one's on the other. So for these, they're going to be on the outside. And the reason they're exterior is because everything inside the parallel lines is in the interior, in between them. So anything outside, like over here and over here, that's going to be the exterior part. So alternate exterior angles are also congruent. And you have another set over here as well. So you have one here. Okay, so there's two sets for each. Next, we have linear pairs. Now, linear pairs is going to come up a ton next year, especially when you're talking about shapes, triangles, solving. So linear pairs are supplementary. And again, that means that Sorry, I can't write and speak at the same time, but it means that they add to 180. So these two angles are supplementary. They form a line. That's why they're called linear pairs. And a line is equal to 180 degrees. Okay. Vertical angles are congruent. So they have equal measure. They're congruent to each other. Okay. So angles 3 and 4 are vertical angles. They're angles that are across from each other. Okay. And they're formed by two straight lines. So here's another set of vertical angles. These are vertical angles. So if they're vertical, they're equal to each other. Okay. All right, for number 1, I just wanted to show you more examples. So it says mark a pair of angles for each angle pair relationship indicated in the figure below. So in the first one, it says alternate interior angles. I only want to mark one pair. So here's an example of alternate interior angles. Corresponding angles, again, those are in the exact same spot. So if I have one here, that means I have one here. Same side interior angles, remember those are on the same side of the transversal, but they have to be interior angles. That means they have to be in here. So I could either pick this one, or I could have also picked these two. Okay. Alternate exterior angles are on different sides of your transversal, and they're also on the outside. So I'm going to pick one here and pick one here. Okay. Linear pairs, they're two angles that form a straight line. Honestly, there's a lot of sets of these. Those two are linear pairs. Could have these two that are linear pairs. I can't pick these two because even though they add to 180 because they're supplementary, they're not forming a straight line together. They have to be adjacent. They have to be right next to each other. I'm just going to pick these two. And then vertical angles, there's a lot of vertical angles here again. I'm just going to pick these two. They're directly across from each other. All right, number 2, use the figure at the right to identify the angle pair relationships. So for example, 1 and 7, here's 1, here's 7. Those are exterior angles. They're not inside of my parallel lines. And they're on different sides. So those are going to be alternate exterior angles. Okay, number 4 and 6. So here's 4, here's 6. Those are on the interior. So I know they're going to be interior and they're alternate. They're on different sides. So that's going to be alternate interior angles. Okay, next one, 4 and 8. 4 is here. 8 is here. They're in the exact same spot. If I was to copy and paste going down, they're in the same spot. Those are corresponding angles. With one eye. Sorry. Okay. Next one is 3 and 6. So here's 3. Here's 6. Again, those are interior angles, but they're on the same side of the transversal. So there's going to be same side, interior angles. Okay, so that's the vocab part. Let's try to solve now. So for these, for your homework, I'm going to have you work on some of the even ones. So for number 3, it says to solve for x. And it says to justify. So when you're solving, you want to keep in mind all the angle relationships that I talked about. So I noticed that they gave me 122 degrees. So they're telling me that this angle here is 122 degrees. Now, another thing you want to do is look at the angle that is in the spot where x is. So x is right here. Okay. And just by looking at these, I'm noticing that these two angles are interior angles. Okay. And because they're interior angles, that means I can use one of my interior angle theorems, and they're on the same side of my transversal. So here's my transversal line. They're on the same side. So because they're on the same side, I know that. And if you forget, you can go up to the top to where I have all my notes. I know that same side interior angles are supplementary. They add to 180. So what I can do is I can solve for the other one. So I know that 122. I'm just going to write an equation out. Okay, 122 degrees plus x degrees is equal to 180 degrees. Okay, so I know that because they're supplementary, so what I can do is solve for x. So this is just like when you solved equations, you want to get x alone. So to solve, I'm going to move the 122 away by subtracting it. Okay, subtract 122 degrees. Okay, and you're able to do that because the units are the same for 180 and for 122. So now you're just going to go ahead and subtract, and you're going to get x degrees, because this cancels out, is equal to 58 degrees. Okay, so I'm going to fill my answer in here, 58 degrees, and where it says justify, I can write a theorem that I used. Okay, for all of these, you should have a theorem. So I'm going to say these are, or I use the, same side interior, angle theorem. Okay, let's try another one. Next one is number 5. So again, for number 5, look at the angle that they gave you. They gave me 108, and then look at the angle that you're solving for. So I'm solving for this one here. Now for these, I noticed that they're not on the inside. They're not interior angles. They're actually going to be exterior angles, and they're on different sides of my transversal. So I can even write my theorem right now for where it says justify. I know that these are alternate exterior angles. And if I look back up at the top, I know that alternate exterior angles are congruent. I know that they're equal to each other. So because they're alternate exterior angles, I'm going to say that 108 degrees is equal to x degrees. So I actually don't need to solve here. It's done for me already. So my answer is 108 degrees. Okay. So for the ones that are congruent, you don't need to move anything around. It's already done for you. All right. Number 7. Again, identify your angles. I have 131 up here. I have x degrees at the bottom. For this one, these are also exterior angles. They're on the outside of my parallel lines. I know these are same side exterior because they're on the same side of my transversal. So I'm going to write that down. These are same side exterior angles. And I know that same side exterior angles add to 180. So I'm going to write an equation. I know that 131 plus x degrees, whatever that is equal to 180 degrees. Okay, then you can solve. Again, do the same thing. I'm going to subtract 131 on both sides to solve for x. Then I'm going to have x degrees is equal to, and then just go ahead and subtract those. 180 minus 131 is going to give me 49 degrees. Okay, so I know that x degrees is equal to 49 degrees. Okay, all right, so that's it. We're done with that one. Okay, number 9 and 10, I'm going to do those together down at the bottom. You're going to do 11 and 12. Make sure you stop by for office hours if you have any questions. It says solve for the unknown variables and then justify your answer. So for these, I know it's kind of a lot because you have 2 variables that you're solving for, but again, just take it one step at a time. They gave me one angle, okay? They gave me 144, and 144 is this angle here, and I have to solve for 2 angles. I have to solve for x, and I have to solve for y, okay? Now, I'm looking at 144 in both of these, and I know that 144 and y, so I know that these two, okay, I know that they are corresponding angles. So because they're corresponding, I'm going to go ahead and say that they're equal. Okay, so this is for number 10 actually. So for the justification, I'm going to say they're corresponding angles. And I'm going to say then that 144 degrees is equal to y degrees. So here I'm just going to say 144 degrees. Okay, and that's because they're congruent to each other. For 144 and x, so just take these one at a time. For these two, these are both on the inside. Okay, they're interior angles, and they're actually same side. They're on the same side of the transversal. So I'm going to say that here. Same side interior angles, and I can solve. So I can say that 144 degrees plus x degrees is equal to 180 degrees because these angles are same side interior, so that means that they're supplementary. They add to 180. So what I'm going to do is solve by subtracting 144 on both sides. I'm left with x degrees is equal to 36 degrees, and that's my answer. Okay, so you're going to try the next one. It's a little tricky, but I think that you can, I think you could do it. I want you to at least attempt it. Okay, that's it for today, you guys. Make sure you review your vocab and email me if you have any questions. Bye.